Okay, so I started recording, and if you haven't already, go to the chat and just click on the attendance link. That way we can get your attendance marked down. And as Amanda already said, we're super excited to have Mitchell with us here tonight, and he's going to share some really great stories. So without further ado, take it away.
Oh, well, thank you. So I am known today around the country as the club tax guy. Now, how do you go from Stumptown, West Virginia, of being a snotty-nosed kid that actually was not a good student whatsoever, and I'll touch on that in a second. But how do you go from that to being recognized nationally as the go-to person when anybody has a question in reference to private club taxation? So right before this webinar, I was speaking to the Chicago Club Accountants Association for an hour on a Zoom webinar, talking about a recent tax law change that they had an interest in. So I miss traveling around the country because of this crazy virus, but I will tell you during this trip from West Palm Beach, Florida, where I currently live, I always come to Marshall Homecoming, and when I come in town, that Dr. Amanda always lets me come speak to one of the classes, so it's a real treat when I get to do that, Amanda. But this coming Monday, for the first time since March, I am actually speaking to a group of private club controllers in Cincinnati during this trip. So I get to see people face to face on this trip, which is going to be a whole lot of fun because I missed that interaction. So I was born in Stumptown. I did not live here. I always came back in the summers to spend the summer on the farm with my grandmother and granddad. But I grew up in Huntington or East Huntington. Went to Barboursville High School. Graduated in Barboursville in '67, and there was really no reason why I should have gone to college because I really was not a very good student. And later on in life, I was almost 30, I guess, when I found out or figured out I am actually dyslexic, that I read. It's like word problems. I could get the math problems right, but the last three questions are always word questions. And I would read the word questions wrong because I read them backwards, or I leave a word out. The issue is, there's a not in there, and I would skip the not. So really, because of that disability, and I actually have made quite a benefit of that disability, and I'll share that with you. But yeah, I was a bad student. Now, I wasn't dumb. I was just in the class right above the dummies. I was placed in the dumb class, and then I always got moved up. So I went to college because living there in Huntington, I could go to Marshall and it wasn't going to cost anything. And I was actually in engineering back in the '60s. Every guy was supposed to go into engineering. So I went into engineering, and I can't pass chemistry. Okay, so I'm going to flunk out of school if I'm going to have to take chemistry classes. Again, memorizing formulas and so forth, that was not up my alley. So halfway decent with math. So my mother convinced me that I should not go to Vietnam, that I should maybe change my major as opposed to flunking out of school. So she suggested, or somebody suggested accounting. I didn't know what accounting was. I didn't want to be an accountant, but I wanted to stay out of Vietnam. So, I stayed in school and I actually, learned a little bit about accounting. But when I graduated, and I'm sure all of you, have watched the movie We Are Marshall, that was actually my senior class. If I'd been the athlete I wanted to be, I could have been on that airplane. But but the good Lord had different plans for me. So so I wasn't a good athlete. You know, just so many things I wanted to be when I was a kid that just, I just wasn't. So anyway, I graduated from Marshall in '71. Last thing I ever wanted to do was to be an accountant. I figured I'd be in sales or something. I'm sorry, doctor, but the truth hurts sometimes. Is that I took the tax class in summer school because I had to take a tax class, and I had to pass it. I'm sure I got a C. I haven't gone back and looked at my grades, but I guarantee you I did not get an A in that class. But tax, I didn't understand what I was studying. So anyway, graduated. I had to find a job. I was not the top 10% of my class, if you know what I mean. Some people are on the dean's list. I was on the other list during school. So I decided, well, maybe I should look for a government job. So there's an ad in the paper that the Internal Revenue Service was interviewing. I didn't know who the Internal Revenue Service was, but I went to Parkersburg and took a test and did an interview. And all of a sudden, I have a job with the Internal Revenue Service. I have no idea what the job entails. I know I'm going to Washington, D.C. Nobody told me what was going to be happening after I got there. So I became a revenue agent. So I put a black hat on. If any of you, their families were in business, you never want to talk to a revenue agent. These are the bad guys. So anyway, I became a bad guy. I worked outside of Washington, D.C. for the first year and then transferred to North Carolina. And spent 7.5 years as a revenue agent. Had some fun experiences. I will share 2 of them with you. That I don't know if any of you are fans of NASCAR, the race car drivers, but you may not know the name, but your parents would. Is that one of the biggest families in NASCAR is the Petty family. Lee Petty was the granddaddy. He was running moonshine in the North Carolina mountains. That's where he made his money. But they fixed cars and raced it through the hills of North Carolina. His son Richard Petty is Hall of Fame driver. Richard's son raced, is now an announcer for NASCAR. So anyway, as a revenue agent, I'm assigned the tax return of Petty Enterprises. So I am going down to Level Cross, North Carolina as a revenue agent. So I won't disclose any of the numbers, but I arrived there and I meet Lee Petty, the granddaddy of them all. I got the chance to sit in the number 43 car, which is in the museum there at Level Cross, so met him, met Richard's his brother Maurice Petty, who builds engines. So he took me to the engine room and showed me how the engines are torn apart and put back together. And this is things that revenue agents do. They need to understand the business before they can understand the numbers. So I'm doing the examination. The ladies on the line will appreciate this because the boys play the women of Petty Enterprise. They did the contracts, they did the accounting. The women ran the business, the boys played. But they were successful in race car driving. So Richard came in. He always has a cowboy hat on, always has a stogie in his mouth and his sunglasses on. And he lays across the mahogany table, and we chat for a while, and I ask him some questions that a revenue agent needed to ask. So I'm there for a couple of days, and I don't remember now if I found anything or not. So anyway, I finished the examination after a few days and went out to the car to leave Petty Enterprises. And I put my key in the ignition, and my car will not start. I have the Hall of Famer Lee Petty, Richard Petty, Maurice Petty, and Kyle came up on his motorcycle because he was racing small stuff before he ran the big cars. To get the revenue agent away from the property, they had to jump my car to get the revenuer to leave. They will not remember my name, but I guarantee you they would remember the story if I shared that I was the revenue agent, that they had to jump the car, the revenuer. I mean, that really is the moonshiners. You know, the revenuers are always after the moonshiners to get the revenuer out of Petty Enterprises. So that was an interesting experience. And then the other one I will share with you is that I was examining the tax return of an individual who was in jail for shooting a guy in the back. He was out on parole because, or he was out awaiting trial because they could not determine why he shot a guy in the back going in a restaurant. And I have the newspaper reports, as revenue agents a lot of times do have inside information. And so I had newspaper reports as to what this individual, you know, what he did for a living and what he was accused of. He was accused of abortion, extortion, a drug ring. I mean, there's a whole thing, all this stuff that he was accused of. So I'm first meeting him at his attorney's office, and then the next visit, it was inconvenient, so I met him at the courthouse. Then the next time I had to meet with him, I had met someplace else, and it was becoming sort of inconvenient to meet this guy on these different, because I was having to coordinate with somebody else. So I started meeting him at his house. And so anyway, I went to his house a couple of times, and it wasn't a big house. And I'm sitting there explaining to him, now that I found all these things that he was involved in, I'm explaining to him exactly how much tax that he actually owes the Internal Revenue Service. And it was a significant amount of tax that he owed. Well, he started getting upset, and he got up and walked out of the kitchen behind me into his bedroom. I'm thinking, the police reports say that his gun was always kept in the top drawer of his dresser in the bedroom, as I hear him pulling the dresser open. I'm thinking, oh no, does anybody know where I am today? And I think, I didn't sign out. I don't think anybody knows where I am. As he puts the door, he also kept his heart pills in the top drawer. That was in the reports also. Luckily, he came out and went to the sink to take his heart medication. I will tell you, I left that premises immediately, if not sooner. So anyway, it's fun being a revenue agent. You meet what you might call the scum of the earth, and then you meet the most successful businessmen or women around the country. So you get this whole spectrum of people, because everybody pays taxes, and you get to learn a lot of different businesses. So just two quick stories. So it was fun being a revenue agent, but to be able to leave the Internal Revenue Service or to be promoted, I decided that to be successful, I was going to have to actually sit for the CPA exam and pass it. It's one thing to sit for the exam. It's one thing to pass it, especially after you've been out of school for 4 years. So I wore the exam out. They actually asked some questions I knew something about, so I finally passed the exam. But unless you're number 1, 2, and 3 in the state or the country, you passed. So I passed. That's all that's important. I have a certificate on the wall that says I'm a CPA. So I'm proud to have passed the exam with a little assistance from a couple of courses that I took. And I'm telling you, I left the Internal Revenue Service after that 7.5 years and got into public accounting. I was the first firm I was with had 9 offices in North Carolina, and I became the director of tax. And you may recognize the name of that firm. It was Dixon Odom at the time, and the partner that hired me was Charlie Odom. But Dixon Odom has merged with other firms, so it is now, what is it, Dixon Hughes Goodman, I believe, that you will see. I think there's something like the 13th largest CPA firm in the country now. Extremely, extremely good firm. So I was the director of tax there for, seems like I stayed places 7 years and then it's time to leave. So I left there and went with another CPA firm as the director of tax for Cherry, Beckert and Holland. And at the time they were the 11th largest CPA firm in the country. They had 27 offices in the Southeast. And I actually had the corner office. Now, how does somebody from Stumptown who actually reads tax law backwards, how does somebody like that actually become the director of tax where, all these people want to come work for me? It is quite interesting, that journey, but I call that getting to the corner office and looking around and saying, what am I doing here? Is that, there's a lot of stress, a lot of responsibility, but very proud that I had reached the top of the ladder. And then I decided, you know what? This isn't actually what I'm looking for. I want more client responsibility. I like people as opposed to just studying tax law all the time. So I left that firm and joined another firm in West Palm Beach, Florida, which has become RSM McGladrey, and they are, I think, the 5th largest CPA firm now. But that is, I joined the firm, and I was told by a person who did audits for private clubs, Mr. Bill Warnersback. He told me there were not any tax issues in private clubs. Keep your nose out of private clubs. And I say, hey, I know nothing about private clubs. I don't have a problem with that. And I was in the state for 13 days, and the Florida Department of Revenue changed the tax law that dealt with private clubs, making club dues sales taxable and a bunch of things sales taxable. So that is in 1991 was my introduction of not knowing anything about club taxation into trying to learn if there are any tax issues with clubs. Even though, and Mr. Warnersback and I never saw eye to eye on a lot of things, and I left in 96, but in 96, I was spending 93% of my total chargeable hours on private club issues. So for an industry that had no tax issues, I sort of found a lot of issues. So with that, I went out on my own, hung up a shingle, never thought about wanting to be the boss. Thought poorly of somebody that worked out of their house. Found out that technology really allows you to do a lot of things remotely. And during your careers, and I hope you sort of remember, this one statement is, you're not going to be happy with every place that you work. Some places are going to fit perfectly. Sometimes it doesn't work. But as you're making decisions on what you want to do when you grow up, and that's sort of what I was facing. I'm going out on my own. What do I want to do? I took one sheet of paper, which I call my business plan. Now, it wasn't 83 pages, book, pictures, and so forth. It was actually a napkin. I was going to say, it was this size, just a simple paper napkin. I sat with an attorney in a bar, and I drew a line down the middle and made a list on the left-hand side of the things I did not want to do. And I made a list on the second side of the things I wanted to do. This can work for you guys as you are getting close to graduation, is that what do you want to do? what is it that you definitely don't want to do? So my list of things I did not want to do is I did not want to do payroll. I hate payroll. If you make a mistake in payroll, it takes forever to get it corrected. So I always say use an outside payroll service. I did not want to do audits. That was not my background. I didn't want to just do bookkeeping. So my list of things I did not want to do was huge. But on the right-hand side was one thing that was quite interesting. I wanted to write a book. Now think about somebody who reads tax law backwards, leaves words out. So because I had overcome that disability, or figured out what the disability was, I have a writing style that actually is a simple writing style. I take something extremely difficult and I take the big words out. And there's actually a scientific study that there's a name for what I do. But I've learned that I'm a pretty darn good communicator of tax law by making it simple. So I've written the club tax book, everything you ever want to know about private club taxation. It never made it to the New York, bestseller list. So don't think you'll find it any place like that. It is specific for the industry. I started with one page, which on the computer, which was a blank page, and I typed club tax book. All my books start with club. I'm a marketing genius. Everything I write starts with club and ends in book. So I've written the club tax book, the club sales and use tax book for Florida, the club equity conversion book, the club litigation book, the club it's all about golf book. That was a hard one to get. So anyway, everything starts with club and ends in book. Of the first book that I've written, like I say, it's not a big seller, but I have sold over, since 1996, I have sold over $2 million worth of club tax book. That it is a subscription-based document. Consulting goes along with it. If you have the book and you have a question, pick up the phone and call Mitch. He'll talk to you. And I don't send invoices because they've already paid for the ability to call me. So that is how I became the club tax expert. I wrote the book. Now, there's one other person in the country that also specializes in private club taxation. He's a dear friend. He's close to retirement, Kevin Riley. He was on the dean's list in college. As I said, I was on the other dean's list. He graduated magna cum laude. He went to law school. He's with a large CPA firm. I say, but Kevin, I wrote the book. He says, well, I reviewed some of it for you. So, but how do you become the best in the world? And there's a theory that I'll touch on maybe in a minute. There's a theory that you need to be great at something. Actually, can you imagine that when you graduate, you can actually be the very best at something, some area of accounting or taxation? Can you imagine that in your career, you can actually be the go-to person in the country or possibly the world? Can you envision that?
A part of me would hate to see what that would be. Sometimes I can master some pretty odd stuff, but the idea is really nice, though.
I actually learned this from an attorney. And this is something for you guys to keep in mind, because it doesn't take much to become I won't call it expert, because the AICPA, I believe, says you're not supposed to use the term expert. But to be the go-to guy, the guru, the person that knows more than anybody else about a particular topic. I learned it from an attorney in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I watched him hiring lawyers. And this attorney was a good friend. Well, I say he was a good friend. We were on the opposite side of the table when I worked for the Internal Revenue Service, so I was always harassing him. But he would hire these attorneys out of school who knew nothing. He would assign them a case and ask them or require them to learn everything that there was to know about one particular issue. And they would read every court case that's ever been tried on a particular case to help a client. And once you learn all that, you need to put your thoughts in writing. So they would end up writing an article. So 6 months after being hired, you would find that their attorneys would write an article on the topic they've been working on for 6 months. Well, when you write an article, somebody actually asks you to speak on the topic. So if you have written on a topic and spoken on a topic, you have to know more than the audience does. Therefore, you become the expert. In tax law, back in when I was with the CPA firms, the other CPA firms, is that for a while during the 70s and 80s, there was a tax law change every year. All I needed to do was be the first one to read the tax law, write an article about it. Guess who became the expert? I read it before anybody else. It was that simple to become a guru in an area of taxation. Just because I read the law before anybody else did, wrote an article, spoke on the topic. Now everybody calls me because they have questions on it. So I think that's something to remember for yourself, that in your careers, you actually will become an expert in an area of accounting or taxation or whatever else that you're doing, because you need to be great at something. So there's a book that's out there that a lot of people refer to. It's called Good to Great by a fellow by the name of Jim Collins. It's an old book now, so it's been around for a long time, but it's quoted an awful lot. And they talk about the hedgehog theory. It is the title he gave it. But there's 3 circles, as I've got circles above my head here. The first circle would be do something that you have a passion for. Okay. Sometime in your career, you're going to have to quit working for money, but you do it because you love something. Do something you have a passion for. For me, I actually love club taxation. I mean, I can't wait for a new rule to come out because I get to read it. I'll be the first one to read it, the first one to write about it, and I'll be there. So do something that it's hard to tell that circle. Do something you have a passion for. The second one is the one above my head, is that do something you can make some money at. If you can't make money at it, it's not a business. And I think I have hair in my eyes, so excuse me. My wife actually has a passion for quilting. So my wife loves quilting, but you can't make any money selling quilts. I mean, it's just a fact. You know, hand quilting, you can't make any money at it because, you know, the machines just throw them out. So you can get a quilt for $20. So you can't make any money at it. But the third one, the third circle, is the one I think most people miss in their careers. And that is, you need to be the best in the world at what you're doing. Now, if you're from Philadelphia and you're a deli in Philadelphia, your world could be a 1-block area. But if you're running a deli in Philadelphia, you need to be the best one on the block. Or if you like Philly cheesesteaks, it's not even a block. There's the Tri-Corner in Philadelphia where the 3 cheesecake, the best in the world, you know, there's what I forgot the names of them, and I'm not going to remember. I think one of them's Pat's. It's not Gino. Anyway, there's three right across the street from each other. Cheesesteaks. But you need to be the best. So what can you do that you can be the best in the world at? So then when you take these circles, put them in a triangle, and then merge them together, it's called greatness. So so I've learned over the years from this attorney how to become great at something. And I started small, for heaven's sakes. I used to be great at trucking taxation, for heaven's sakes, because at a CPA firm, you know, we had 20 trucking companies as clients. So I needed to know all the rules on roadables and you know, tires and all kinds of things about trucks, just because. But I was one of the best tax guys in reference to trucking, just because I read it before anybody else did. So so back to what I have done is I've taken this issue of private club taxation, and I've made a career of it. So not only have I written books, I've also created a club tax network. That's what the logos are, is that it's a network of CPA firms around the country. So there's 19 CPA firms that have joined my network, and we talk about, they do audits for private clubs, and they pay me a fee to be available to them, to talk to them and their clients about private club taxation. So people write checks just to be associated with me. Doctor, that's sort of a bizarre, you know? People write checks to be associated with me. I'm still the same kid that grew up in the summers here on the farm in Stumptown. I'm the same kid that, you know, got C's in school. Yeah, I was happy with C's. You know, if I got a B, man, I had to work real hard for a B. I just didn't want to have too many D's. But you can imagine, if you read the question wrong, you're probably going to get the answer wrong. And I had no idea. And I know Marshall now has a whole department dealing with the disabilities and dyslexia and so forth. I've never been tested for it, but you know, with all my reading I've done on the topic, I have all the symptoms. But I've learned to overcome it, because I can even tell when it's about to hit, or when it is hitting. And I just have to stop, slow down, start drawing pictures. And I've shared this with your professor, is that the Internal Revenue Service taught me that as I was reading tax law, I draw pictures of the transaction. Now, yeah, I won't show you. If I were there with the chalkboard in front of me, or the whiteboard, I would show you how I draw pictures. I draw stick people. You know, I'm sorry, I'm a chauvinist, I guess. I put a skirt on the female just so I can tell the male versus the female. You know, the circle's a corporation, the bank has a dollar sign on it. But I draw pictures of tax law. If I can see the picture, I can understand the law. So I need to make it simple for me. And that's actually what I do with the tax law when I explain it to others. I don't need to impress somebody about Code Section 387 2B, third paragraph. You don't need to know that. You need to know, can I do it or not? You know, is it going to cost me money or not? That's what I have been able to overcome using my disability, make everything extremely simple. So that's sort of my story. That it's been a wonderful journey. I told the class last year that I sat in their accounting and tax class 50 years ago. Lord have mercy on mine, old man. But I'm blessed that I continue to work. I will not retire. I'm having way too much fun. I do not play golf every day. My club is closed on Mondays, so I can't play on Mondays, but I might actually play golf every afternoon in the summer. So I'm blessed to be in the business, to have fun with what I do. Yeah, if you look at it, do what you have a passion for. You know, figure out how to make some money at it. And the third one, be the best in the world at what you're doing. So that's what I had written down and wanted to share with you. And I guess the last piece is of a doctor is that if I had not gone to Marshall, if Marshall hadn't let me in, I have no idea how I got in. The standards must have been extremely low at the time. But because I had an accounting degree, if I didn't have an accounting degree, my life would not be the same. And I did not want to be an accountant. That's the last thing. Of course, I didn't know what an accountant was, so that was also part of it. But because of that opportunity of mother suggesting that I not flunk out of school, but change my major to see if I can actually, graduate. Accounting has been just so important to me. So a number of years ago, I decided to give back to Marshall. So Lance West at the foundation office met with me in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and said, we'd love for you to, come back for homecoming. Or, he didn't ask for money to start with, but he touched my heart and said, there's some kids that just can't necessarily go to college because they don't have any money. My parents didn't have any money, but I would like to help other students to actually have some money to do the things that they have a passion for, to be able to be successful like I've been successful using accounting as the platform for it. So I've created a scholarship based in the name of the Club Tax Network and contribute $6,000 annually so that 3 scholarships can be given annually. And have now, I don't know how Lance West does this, but somehow he convinced me to commit to another 5 years this fall. So Lance is a salesperson, I guarantee you that. But this scholarship is going to be continued annually for at least the next 5 years, and hopefully we'll continue until I run out of money, until I'm only living on Social Security. So, Dr. Amanda Thompson, if you will, I believe we're going to talk about some scholarships.
Yes, so we really do appreciate your generous gift, Mitch. It really does mean a lot to the students. And we actually have all 3 scholarship recipients here tonight. So I'm going to announce their names and then give them an opportunity to express their gratitude. So we've got Ashlee Smith, Max McGinnis, and Katarina Kuhn. So I'm going to turn the mics over to them so you get to meet them.
Very good. So Ashlee, your face is familiar. Did I meet you last year, Ashlee?
I don't remember. It's probably really possible. I've met so many people through Beta Alpha Psi. I started as a ploy that Amanda uses in a lot of her classes for extra credit through the VITA program. And one of my friends was involved with the program, and she said, well, you're coming to the VITA anyway, you might as well come to the meetings and join. And I said, well, okay. And from there, it's pretty much just been, it's just been an uphill climb from there as far as all the benefits that I've gotten from it. I've met so many people, expanded on my network, and learned about a lot of great firms and met some incredible people along the way. And as one of the recipients, I can tell you that the additional financial support from people like you is very appreciated. I'm going to use that money for my master's program. I'm just going to be at Marshall for my MSA after I graduate with my undergrad. So I deeply appreciate any additional financial support that I can get through scholarships.
Now, where are you from? What city?
Pritchard, West Virginia, about 15 minutes from Wayne, West Virginia, about 30 minutes from Huntington. So ordinarily I would commute. People talk about, you know, the virtual aspect of this semester, and I'll share you a secret. I kind of like not having to drive. Not having to fill my car up at every 2 weeks is kind of nice, to be honest.
Well, I will share with you is that I worked 40 hours. I didn't have much time for study. I worked 40 hours and then I was in the fraternity. I was a Sig Ep. So I played and worked and there's just not enough time to play and work and study. So I got my social skills down as a Sig Ep, but there was nothing like living on campus. I grew up living on campus. So what an experience, you know, being a Marshall was for me. But I commuted my first 2 years. And yeah, it's different than actually living on campus. So I say there's nothing like living in the fraternity house. Changed my life. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Max?
Hi, Mr. Stump. My name is Max McGinnis. Was born and raised in Huntington. Marshall is not my first college I've attended, but it is my home nonetheless. And it's the saying, you never appreciate home until you leave and come back. Who definitely stood true for this. And I just wanted to reach out and say thank you so much. Thank you is not sufficient for, you know, the gratitude I have for this scholarship, and just wanted to thank you for your generosity.
You are welcome. So what school did you attend out of high school?
My freshman year I went to West Virginia Wesleyan College.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to go to, I thought I wanted to go to Tech, but again, I'm glad I didn't. That I really would have flunked out and been a salesman someplace, but so where'd you go to high school?
I went to Huntington High. And then you mentioned Barbersville High School.
It was still Huntington High, right?
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. You mentioned Barbersville High School. My grandfather went there just a few years before you did, I think. He was a Barbersville guy.
What was his name?
His name's Bernard McGinnis.
Well, I know. Well, Tommy McGinnis was a dear friend and married my wife's best friend. So
really?
Yeah, the McGinnises. Now I knew the McGinnises from the golf course. I caddied a guy in, and
really?
If you know, I would never say these things online, but the McGinnis family, there's some stories on the McGinnis family. So
there's a few.
Maybe we'll have a beer and talk about the McGinnises.
I'm always down for that. Yes, sir.
Oh, how funny. I learned some curse words from Tommy McGinnis's mother that I'd never heard before.
I'll tell you what. I'll promise you it was genetic.
Oh, congratulations. This is terrific.
Thank you very much,
and the third one is Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Katerina. I have an interesting story for you, actually. You said you were not very good in school. I never even intended to go to college because I did really poorly in high school. Like, my parents were like, Kat, just college is not for you at first. And then so I attended like a community school, did really well, just excelled there, got a 4.0, decided to continue my degree, came to Marshall University, and just have excelled ever since. I don't know how, but I really do appreciate the scholarship that you have handed out, and it's helped me financially. It's helped me be able to continue school and not have to worry about finances. So I really do appreciate everything.
Now, where are you from?
I'm from Charlestown, West Virginia. So Eastern Panhandle.
Panhandle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody blossoms at different times. And the older you get, you realize that, you know, by watching other people and who's successful and who's not. You know, there's the story in business is that the A students are professors, the B students, the B students own the company, and the C students are the best salesmen or something like that. Anyway, there's a spot for everybody, but yeah, I just thought I was dumb. I mean, I just, you know, I was not college material. Like I say, I have no idea how I got in college, but what a blessing that Marshall allowed me, and then I figured it out. But so yeah, your grades are important, but you know, it's not the A students that are going to be most successful as the ones that work the hardest. And I don't think there's many people that actually worked much harder than I did, because I had to read tax law 3 times to make sure I got the right answer. Yeah, I picked the best 2 out of 3. But yeah, I don't read something one time and comprehend. I got to read it again and again and again. But once I get it, I then know it. So, but congratulations for you finding your spot. That's there is a sweet spot for everybody. So congratulations for receiving, you know, all 3 of you for receiving the scholarships, and especially you, Mr. McGinnis, is that I will be talking to my buddy Tommy and telling me that you're leaning on me.
I just sent him a text message.
What a small world. And isn't West Virginia, you know, I take such pride, and I talk about being a redneck from West Virginia, and I lean on that a whole lot. If you didn't notice, you probably didn't notice that I have a Southern accent, but you can imagine when I'm talking to people in New York, they'll say, well, where the hell are you from? Man, I play up being a redneck from Stumptown, you know. Yes is a 2-syllable word. I do an 8-hour seminar, and I'm doing an 8-hour tax seminar. I do an 8-hour tax seminar, and I'm doing one in Cincinnati on Monday that I don't prepare for. I mean, I don't study for. I will not look at any notes before I do the seminar Monday. I'll be driving over after the Marshall football game Saturday. I'll drive over Sunday. I'll be at the Cincinnati Country Club. You know, I don't prepare for it because I know my material. I've done it so many times. I don't have to prepare, and somebody will ask questions, and we'll go on tangents, and you know, we always come back after the tangents. But this is what I love. When you do something you love, it's not work. So all my high school and college buddies have all retired, taken second jobs, retired again. Why would I retire? I'm the club tax guy. Yeah, all my friends are a telephone call away. So I am blessed, and it's because of Marshall University. So Amanda, I think our time is up. That what a blessing you have given me again today, being able to see the students and meet the students. And you know, if there's ever anything I can do for Marshall University, please, you'll let me know.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate you know, your scholarships, and we so enjoyed getting to hear your life story and your life lessons. So thanks, and enjoy homecoming week. Enjoy the ball game.
Go Herd.
That's right. They're doing really well this year too.
Oh, they certainly are. And it will be fun because they're playing Florida Atlantic. So I will be able to rub it in. My daughter actually graduated from Florida Atlantic. So yes, I get to rub it in if this is going to be a win.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed that it's a win. It's been a win so far, so that's good.
It certainly has. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Bye.